If you are confirmed as Attorney General, will you pledge to fairly and faithfully uphold the law regardless of party?
So help me God.
Amen. Look, and I want to be clear for folks at home. I don't want a Republican Department of Justice. I don't want a Democrat Department of Justice. I want a Department of Justice that follows the damn law. And I think the American people do too. That shouldn't be too much to expect.
Okay, did you just see that? What you just watched is exactly why this confirmation hearing has the entire internet talking. That was Senator Ted Cruz questioning Pam Bondi at her Attorney General confirmation hearing, and honestly, I've watched a lot of these Senate hearings. Most of them are boring. Political theater. People talking past each other, nobody really saying anything meaningful. This was different. Cruz cut straight through the noise and asked the one question that actually matters. Will you uphold the law for everybody, or just for your side? The way he built that argument, methodically, passionately, with actual receipts, that's not something you see every day in Washington. Now, I have my own thoughts on all of this, and we're going to get into everything after we watch the full video. The DOJ, the FBI, the Trump prosecutions, Bondi's background, all of it. But before we do that, if you're new here, hit subscribe. I cover political moments like this one, and I give you my honest, unfiltered take. Also drop a comment below right now. Just from that snippet alone, do you think the DOJ was weaponized over the last 4 years? I want to know where you stand before we dive in. All right, let's watch the full thing.
Really not going to answer that question, so let me get on to...
Would you like to?
I do have
I'd love
questions
to respond.
for the second round.
You'll have a second round. Would you like to speak before I call on Senator Cruz?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Bondi, welcome. Thank you for your long career in public service, and thank you for your willingness to take on this incredibly important office. You know, I have to say, I don't know that there is a more important position in this new administration than the position to which you have been nominated, Attorney General of the United States. I thought the exchange just a moment ago with Senator Hirono was illustrative. She asked you how you would respond if the president asked you to target his political enemies. It's rather striking because it's not a hypothetical. It has happened over the last 4 years. And I think perhaps the most tragic legacy of the Biden-Harris administration has been the politicization and the weaponization of the United States Department of Justice. And we don't need to ask hypothetically because Joe Biden publicly mused and allowed the New York Times to report it, calling on Merrick Garland, why will he not prosecute Trump more quickly? And Merrick Garland, sadly, he sat in that chair and promised to be apolitical, and he broke that promise almost the instant he walked into the Department of Justice. If you look on the west pediment of the Supreme Court of the United States, just above the entrance, there's a simple yet profound four-word phrase, equal justice under law. We have seen over the last 4 years a Department of Justice that systematically targeted the political opponents of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and that systematically protected his friends and allies. And it is tragic to see the loss of confidence in the American people, in the Department of Justice, and in the FBI. I would note, I don't think there's an institution in America who has lost more respect from the American people than the FBI has in the last 4 years. That is a grotesque violation of the obligation of the Department of Justice and the FBI. So I want to start with just a very simple question. If you are confirmed as Attorney General, will you pledge to fairly and faithfully uphold the law regardless of party?
So help me God.
Amen. Look, and I want to be clear for folks at home. I don't want a Republican Department of Justice. I don't want a Democrat Department of Justice. I want a Department of Justice that follows the damn law. And I think the American people do too. That shouldn't be too much to expect. Now, I'm grateful to President Trump for nominating you. I think on any objective level, you're clearly qualified for this position. You have been a prosecutor for decades. You have been the elected Attorney General of the state of Florida, the third largest state in America, for 8 years. Let me ask you, in terms of your practice, how many criminal cases over the course of your career have you personally handled?
Handled thousands.
How many of those were before a jury?
Hundreds. I don't want to overstate, but hundreds. I was in a courtroom for many years. I tried 4 when I was an intern, jury trials. I think you had to try at least 20 in misdemeanor before you went to felony. Then you were in court every day, and I was also lead trial attorney for many years trying many cases. So,
And how many of those cases would have been before a judge?
hundreds and hundreds as well, but hundreds before a jury, I would assume.
And as Attorney General of Florida, how many lawyers did you supervise roughly?
Approximately 400, Senator.
Now, I also want to clarify something. During the course of this hearing, several Democrat senators have referred to you as President Trump's, quote, personal lawyer. Now I don't believe that is an accurate characterization. As I understand it, you represented President Trump as a White House special advisor during his first impeachment trial. Is that correct?
Within Office of White House Counsel, yes, Senator.
And is working within the White House counsel's office different than representing Donald J. Trump individually as his personal lawyer?
Absolutely.
How's it different?
You're working for the government. You're working for the Office of White House Counsel. You're not representing him in his personal capacity.
And so you have not represented him in his business affairs, in his personal life, or in any of the criminal trials he has faced?
No, Senator.
And you know, when it comes to weaponization, it's worth noting that in more than 2 centuries of our nation's history, no president had previously been indicted, no president had previously been prosecuted until the Biden-Harris White House came along. And in the last 4 years, we've seen Donald Trump indicted and prosecuted not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 separate times.
And 2 assassination attempts, Senator.
I have to say, Javert from Les Mis would be chagrined at the efforts of Democrats to do anything possible to take him down. And I believe the real target in this was not President Trump, but it was the American people, that these prosecutions were brought because partisan prosecutors were terrified that the American people would do exactly what they did in November of 2024 and vote to reelect Donald J. Trump.
By 77.3%. Million Americans. 77.3 million Americans.
Will you commit every day as Attorney General to follow the law, to follow the Constitution, to uphold the rule of law without favor and without regard to the partisan position of any criminal defendant?
Yes, Senator.
That's what we should all expect from an Attorney General. Thank you.
We'll now recess for 30-minute lunch break. That means we'll be back.
Okay, so now you've seen the whole thing. Here's my honest take. Ted Cruz came prepared. And I don't mean in the political performance sense where someone walks in with a rehearsed gotcha line. I mean he walked in with a real case. Structured, logical, evidence-backed. For a Senate hearing, that is genuinely refreshing. The point he opened with about Senator Hirono's hypothetical question was sharp. Because Cruz is right. Asking Bondi what she would do if a president asked her to target his enemies is not really a hypothetical anymore, is it? If you believe the DOJ spent the last 4 years doing exactly that in reverse, targeting Trump and protecting Biden's allies, then that question answers itself. And Cruz had the guts to say it out loud. The moment that really got me was when he pointed to the Supreme Court building. Equal justice under law. For words. That is the entire job description of the Department of Justice. His argument, which I think holds up, is that those 4 words were functionally ignored for 4 years. The FBI angle is something I feel strongly about. The FBI is supposed to be the gold standard of law enforcement in the world. The level of public trust that institution has lost in recent years is genuinely alarming, regardless of which side of the aisle you sit on. When Americans stop trusting federal law enforcement, that is a 5-alarm crisis for democracy. Cruz naming that directly, without sugarcoating it, that mattered. The qualifications piece was also smart. By walking Bondi through her own record, thousands of cases, hundreds of jury trials, 400 lawyers supervised, 8 years as AG of the 3rd largest state in the country, Cruz was making the case for her while letting her speak for herself. This is not some political appointee who has never seen the inside of a courtroom. This is someone who has been doing this work her entire career. The personal lawyer rebuttal was necessary too. That characterization had been thrown around all morning by Democratic senators, and it was clearly designed to paint Bondi as a loyalist rather than a qualified nominee. The distinction Cruz drew between serving within the White House counsel's office and being someone's private personal attorney is a real and meaningful legal distinction. It needed to be corrected on the record. Then, the Trump prosecution argument. I know this is where opinions divide, and I respect that. But the factual point Cruz made is hard to argue with. In over 2 centuries of American history, no sitting or former president had ever been criminally indicted until the last 4 years, when it happened 4 times. Whatever your politics, that is an extraordinary and unprecedented set of circumstances. Whether politics played any role in those prosecutions is a completely legitimate question to ask. Bondi's closing answer was exactly what that moment called for. Short, direct, no hedging. Yes, Senator. Follow the law. Follow the Constitution. No favor, no partisan consideration. Just the law. If she holds to that standard, that is everything you could ask for from an attorney general. Here is my bottom line. Cruz used his time in that hearing room to make a principled argument, not just a partisan one. He was not simply defending Trump or attacking Democrats. He was defending an idea that the Department of Justice has to be a neutral instrument of the law above all else. Whether you like Ted Cruz or not, whether you voted for Trump or not, that idea is one every American should be able to get behind. The question now is whether Bondi actually delivers on that pledge once confirmed. And that we will be watching very closely. Alright, that's my full reaction. Let me know in the comments, do you think Pam Bondi will be a truly independent attorney general, or do you think the political pressure will get to her eventually? I genuinely want to hear from you. If you enjoyed this breakdown, share it with someone who needs to see it, because moments like this get buried by the algorithm if we don't push it ourselves. See you in the next one.